Hope everyone's having a wonderful day. Today we have a 2012 LML Duramax, and this one's kind of a pain in the butt. So what we're doing today is I'm actually pulling the driver's side cylinder head, and the reason is that the customer installed some cheap glow plugs, and one of them is stuck in the head and will not come out. The customer broke the head off of it. We spent a few days trying to extract it to, you know, so we don't have to pull the head, but it's not coming out. I'll show you it right now. We had to put a tab in it to keep it from popping out when we moved it, or an extractor. So that's what it looks like right there. See, that's the extractor, but this is why you don't run cheap glow plugs. I don't know if it's the similar metal. It's a different type of metal, but this glow plug is, the metal's so cheap it just flakes as soon as you touch it. So unfortunately, we gave it our all. We're going to be pulling the head now, and this will be actually the first time pulling a cylinder head on an LML, so we'll figure it out and let's get it going. And as you can tell, I've already started taking stuff apart. I wasn't going to film it, but I figure why not, you know. So let's get her going. So this took me a while to get actually done. It took me, I think, a few days to actually do this whole process. I honestly did not want to do it. Unfortunately, none of the other technicians that we have, they were all very busy, and this is kind of a job for me because I specialize in this kind of stuff. So this took me, I think, maybe 5 hours to take the cylinder head off from start to finish. Maybe there's probably less than that. This week I have been a little bit under the weather. That's why this kind of took forever. You can hear it in my voice in the video. Still probably hear it now. So it took me a while to build up the energy to actually get this done. But as you can see, pulling the fan out, because you got to pull the front brackets off the engine to actually get the coolant crossover pipe out. As you can see right there, this thing is, there's a lot of stuff you have to take apart. I've done heads on Duramax before, and I've filmed them before, but this LML, man, there's just so much stuff on it. And you can see I'm taking the EGR cooler off right now, and then I believe I pulled the intake next, but I'm still working on the front bracket assembly. I pulled the two studs out of the front of the bracket so that I don't have to pull the power steering pump off. I can just pull it kind of at an angle. I don't have to pull it straight off. That made it a little bit easier for me. Now I'm disconnecting the coolant lines to the cooler, getting the coolers out of the way, and I'm disconnecting the whole thermostat housing assembly, getting the coolant pipe off, pulling the whole thing out as one giant assembly to get it out of my way. Then getting the intake off next. I just let the bolts fall down in the valley, get them out with a magnet. As you can see, it's not a big deal. It's just a headache trying to actually get them out. Now you'll notice when I take these two fuel lines off, the one on the driver's side rail and the one on the injection pump, I do tear them taking them off. For some reason, those two hoses were really hard on this truck, so I ended up I ordered brand new ones for it. So those will be new going back together so we don't have any leaks. That driver's side charge tube, man, that thing is just the worst to do. Such a pain in the butt. Yeah, I actually have to use a pick that's like kind of like a U, so reach in the backside of it and then roll it around, try to pull it off. But every single one of those, man, I just fight. So you can see I'm getting the fuel lines off, trying to get all the wiring out of my way so I can actually get to the cylinder head. Because we're trying to keep this fuel system clean, so as I take stuff apart, I'm trying to spray it off, make sure everything is very clean as much as I can get. Again, pulling the turbocharger coolant feed line, the pipe off the turbo, it makes it easier to get to the fuel pipe underneath. I mean, it's really not that bad, it's just a lot of stuff. And then right now I'm probably grabbing caps to plug everything up so that nothing falls down deep in the fuel rails or the injectors. But before I put it back together, I'll blow everything out. The next thing that I actually need to invest in one of these for working on these trucks is like an injector removal tool. Luckily this one, the injectors weren't in there like crazy. I did have to wiggle them a little bit and they pop right out, but it's just going to be easier if I order the tool on Amazon to get a cheaper tool. It doesn't have to be nothing crazy. Luckily we don't live in the Rust Belt, so don't have to deal with none of that crap. But next, pulling the fuel rail. The fuel rail is kind of a pain in the butt because that fuel crossover line that goes under the turbo, I don't know why. I think the cylinder head only called for like 13 hours. I don't understand why, because just that pipe alone makes it a pain in the butt. But I honestly had to pull that pipe up. I unbolted it, pulled the pipe up, and then slid the rail out. Made it a little bit easier. And as you can see, I'm kind of sneaking the upper valve cover out without pulling the injectors. so that I can get in there and try to pry on them a little bit easier, so I can twist them and pry so I don't break anything, because I don't want to break those injectors. But getting the upper valve cover, all the torques or the Allens off that, and now I'm playing with the injectors, wiggling them out side to side. They came out actually very, very easy, because there's really not a good place to pry on them because they're plastic on the bottom, and as you see, these have to go back in the same place because they're actually the codes, so they got to go back right in the same place. Finally getting the lower off. This is pretty much a home stretch. Once you get to this point, it becomes really easy. Just pull the torques out, or the Allens, pull the rocker, pull the bridges, the push rods. Unfortunately, the video is in really fast because I set the camera up a little bit different this time. Unfortunately, I don't like it this fast, so next time I will put it back slower. But it wasn't too bad of a job. It's tedious. Now you see I'm doing the up pipe. Bolts to the manifold. Usually what I use a Ford drive shaft socket, if you know what one of those are. Snap-on sells them. It's like maybe 2.5–3 inches long. Has a 12.12 on one side and a 1/2 inch drive on the other. I use that with a swivel with a long 1/2 inch extension and pull that sucker out, and those are how I get the two bottom ones. I think the top one I had to use a wrench on because it was just, I couldn't get my socket in there. And the other thing too I noticed that was different on these trucks, the LML, is that the upper head bolts, the little tiny ones that go like above the lifters, those are actually torques. So got all that stuff out, finally lifting out. My dad's actually lifting out for me because I asked him to help, but he just wanted to pull the whole thing out. So getting it all cleaned up. I like to spray everything with WD-40 to make sure that it doesn't rust when it sits, because it's going to be a few days. And now this is the cylinder head. Look at this carnage right here. As you can see, that's the hole that we had a problem with right there. That's the third one back. The glow plug's like broken off in the bottom of it. And luckily we did pull the cylinder head. The front one, I tried to remove it. That one broke too. So even if we got the back one out, we probably would have spent a few more days on the front one. And at that point, it's just not worth it. Those two came out okay. I don't know what exactly the deal was here. I don't know if the glow plugs were loose at one time, but whatever it was bad. And this is the new cylinder head right here. Brand new from GM. We're sending it out to the machine shop to have them put the valves in it, make sure everything's good, load it up, and we'll pop it on and get her going. Stay tuned for part 2.